Hello everybody and welcome to the Marina Bay Street Circuit for the Singapore Grand Prix in Assetto Corsa Formula 1. Today we are racing around this 5 km long track for 31 laps. We have not had any races here, so there is no lap record, no track record. And the tyres today, they will be the softer compounds of the super soft and soft tyres, using the softest compounds available, as this is quite a slow circuit. So it allows the drivers to go for the soft compound and not wear through the tyres as fast as they would on quite a fast, like the faster circuits. And now we will jump to the standings quickly. Now looking at the standing, you can see Nassim has a dominant 53-point lead on Victor Bernat in second. Bernat has only 3 points to third place in the championship, and then the two Bajawi racing drivers are very close together, 1 point between them. But then drivers who can perform very well and are racing today, but haven't quite had the most consistent arrivals, are the Baguette racing drivers of Ziglio and Kamishov. Both drivers being very strong on track, but not quite turning up to enough races to score the points needed to control the championship, which they could do quite well. In 7th is Diowski from Itstem Racing. 8th is Daniel Soul from Europroton, the only driver to be scoring points for that team. 9th is Sarah Mulfetova with 22 points. And finally, Phoenix in 10th has 18 points. And if we look over to the team standings, dominantly controlling is Over the Limit. The Over the Limit team with 118 points. Bajawi Racing with 95 points second, and Baguette Racing in third with 76 points. Itstem Racing doing well there to take 4th place with 60 points. 1 point away though is a Quail Racing, so that could be a close fight to watch in the team's championships as we progress through the season. But now we will go to the on-track action which is happening. We have 21 minutes and 50 seconds of practice remaining, and yeah, so we're watching Venlin Uzanov now taking his way through this very tight street circuit. There's no room for error or else you will be into a wall, so racing here is extremely difficult because you're not quite able to squeeze the other drivers out as much as you could at a purpose-made circuit and a permanent circuit compared to one of these street circuits, because there's just so close to the track, and where usually it'd be a lot of runoff. Oh, was that Ven stopped there 3 seconds off with his fastest time? But as the standings are, after about 9 minutes of on-track action, we have 4 drivers having set representative lap times. Kamishov taking the fastest lap time on the super soft tyre. 1 second off of him is Nassim Rula, our current championship leader in the 47 car, with on the soft tyre. That may have been on the super soft, but he is on the soft tyre at the minute. On the super soft right now is Ven Uzanov. Daniel Soul in P4 on the soft tyre, setting a lap time that is about 5.5 seconds slower. And Jeremy Guth also setting that 5 seconds slower. Oh, it does race for Bajawi Racing. I thought he raced for someone else. Let's go to him quick in his Bajawi car. Nope, you're not getting any good angles with that. Oh, interesting. Didn't notice that. But anyway, back to the on-track action. Diego Betterini coming through the final corner now to set a 2-minute 4.1, starting his lap, I believe. into turn 1, very nice. Using a lot of curve for turn 2, turn 3 is very tight. Down. Ooh, fast right-hander of turn 5. Being a little bit too much there. And making the car step out there. As Ven now starts a lap. Nassim is now even closer to Kamishov. Only about half a second now. As I remember, I need to turn on the audio for the game so you guys can hear the amazing car V12s, I believe? Or V10s? I know this game so well. Let's move that. What engine do these cars have? I should really know. V8. They're really V8s? I thought they were V12s. Oh well. V10s even. Oh well. Yes, as we watch the breaking point racing driver of Diego Betterini in 8th position. Coming through this section of track that actually isn't going to be there for the 2023 Formula 1 Singapore Grand Prix in real life. They're cutting out that little awkward double chicane, instead putting in just a straight. They're just cutting straight through it. So Ven now is actually coming up to it. We're not on board with him. If we get to that section again, I will point it out. Jimmy Guth, this little right-left and left-right. Neither of them are going to be in the 2023 layout. As we'll just have a big old straight, and I'm presuming they're going to make the runoff a little bit wider there for the increased speeds at which they're coming at that corner. As we watch Guth to start a lap now into turn 1. No, we're watching Pietro Lunghi instead. Sorry for my voice. There we are, that's a little bit better now. Pietro Lunghi through this complicated section under the bridge. And down to the final handful of corners. Now riding on board with Alex Helm, the Quail Racing team. Ooh, a little bit deep on the brakes, almost hitting the wall there, but keeping it on the track and continuing on with his lap. Ooh, very close to the walls. See, ooh, a little bit too close to the walls there. As we now watch Pietro Lunghi for Lamborghini Tech coming down after a very long straight. 2 turns number, I don't know. Let me get a track map up so I know the numbers. Oh no. Hmm. 2012 actual track guide. Interesting. Hey, corner numbers, that's turn 7. Sorry. And Timo now we're watching Timo, who's third place in the minute in the timing boards. Nassim is fastest with a 42.3, and with a very close time of, I believe, looks like about 42.4, 42.5. Is probably 44. Yeah, is Dmitry Kamishov. Timo Nathaniel. Oh yeah, Timo Nathaniel with a 44.7 in third, a 44.8 for Dialski there, and Velenuzanov with a 45.8. Taking up P5 in this practice session with 13 minutes remaining. We have a big bunch of cars, so maybe we'll be able to see how the dirtier affects the car's handling or not. And we just jump to Nassim, our fastest driver on track at the minute. He comes through the final sector now. Come through the final corner, which is almost flat out, or maybe fully flat out, I'm not sure. A 43.2 there into turn 1. Doing a lot of push laps here, as we now watch Heroes now. Going through finicky section, looking at the suspension of this car, it's very matte black on the old skin. As Kamishov has stopped somewhere on track. And probably returned to pit lane. Yep. So he's now leaving pit lane into turn 1. Interesting line, braking sort of towards the apex of the corner. And making the corner a little bit tighter for themselves there. But stopping, and maybe that isn't their actual line. Probably not. Ooh. God, long old day. Long day. I've got stream open. A quail racing for the win. Oh, Isaac Nilsson predicting that quail racing have the pace to win this Grand Prix. Lovely. Let's look now, Nassim coming to the pit lane. P1. And now we watch Denis Ferreira, who got a little bit squirmy on the throttle there, a little bit too trigger happy and just lost the car. And Jeremy Guth, another driver, getting a little bit too trigger happy on the throttle and losing the car. That may have also been to the amount of curve he was using. Ooh, as Pietro Lunghi goes very deep at turn 1, stopping to return to pit lane. Victor Bernat now also stopping. Lots of drivers returning to pit lane. Also lots of drivers that don't have a lap time set in this qualifying session. Not qualifying, this practice session. Qualifying for another 10 minutes. Yeah, so at the 2/3 mark of this practice session, we have Nassim Rula in first with a 42.391. Second is Dmitry Kamishov with a 42.482. Third is Timo Nathaniel with a 44.78, and Dialski is in fourth with a 44.832. Fifth place takes you to the over the limit driver of Velenuzanov with a 44.9, and sixth place is Jeremy Guth, the Bajari racing driver, in the 69 car with a 46.007. As we're right on board with the slowest driver on the grid here, Will KB, taking these corners at extremely slow speeds. He's all good. Will KB here, driver who I believe is streaming his own point of view. If I'm too boring, you can go watch the Minty Fresh team, Will KB's Twitch channel, and now watch them come down to turn 14. Turn 14, 15, 16, through a little awkward section of the turn 16, 17, and 18 and 19 under the bridge, tapping the wall a little bit there, and through 18 and 19 there, everything is all good. Turn 20 is quite tight, and you can take a lot of throttle through 21 to bring the car out wide. 22 and 23, sort of joint double corner where it's almost flat out. There's a big lift though for Will KB there, and he doesn't set a lap time. So now watch Alex Helm. Now we watch Alex coming down to turn 10, I believe that is. Very, very fast through there. Dmitry Kamishov in second place at the minute. Is hunting to set a faster lap than Nassim. Now watch Dennis here coming through the turns 18, 19, a little under the bridge section. Now they're all next to the helmet camera here. Very nice, lovely view as we take the final two corners of the track and don't quite keep it on the tarmac. Going to Pietro Lunghi now. And it's coming through turn 9 there. Very nice. Nothing too out of the ordinary. We have 6 minutes of this practice session left to go. Our top 3 are Nassim Rula, Dmitry Kamishov and Van Uzanov. And all we are hoping for is some good pace from all the drivers to keep battles and everything very tense on track. I'm just going to take a quick second away. And I am back as Timo Nathaniel sets a faster time than Ven Uzunov to put himself up into 3rd position. Those two I feel are going to have a good scrap, as well as Dayowski there for 3rd place, but I feel that Nassim and Kamishov could just run away with this race as long as they don't make too many mistakes. Two very skilled, very fast drivers, but you never know with Timo. He is a world champion in this series, so he could pull some time out of his back pocket and put himself right in the fight for the win. We're just going to have to see. We're now right on board with Dayowski quickly. His fastest time being a 44.832. Could we see any times faster than that? We'll have to wait and see. As Jeremy there just getting a little bit wide and getting it a bit locked up. Going into turn 14 there, I believe. 2019, 18, 17, 16, 15, 10, 15 even. Oh, Pietro putting a little bit of a drift on there as the end of the practice session now. Any drivers in the pit lane have finished laps. Any drivers on track are able to finish the laps they're currently on, and then that will be the end of their session. Ooh. As a Lamborghini Cheteca Pietro going a little bit deep there at turn 10. As he now takes the corner of number something. 10-13, go up to 10-14. Now, very nice, car looks very stable, doesn't seem to be complaining at all as he drove it. It seems to be a very comfortable drive, and so that could help with the consistency in the pace. As Denise here in P10 is looking to go a little bit faster than what they've set so far, taking all that penultimate and final corner very, very wrong and not quite setting a lap time that would be wanted by them. But as practice comes to an end, we've got Dmitry Kamishov was able to put a lap time in that puts him P1. Dmitry Kamishov was able to put in a lap time that puts him T1. Nassim Rula has a lap time that sets him P2. Dayowski P3 in the Extreme Racing car. Timo Nathaniel in P4 and Venlin Uzunov in P5. A team to watch for today, or a drive to watch for as it is their home race, would be Will KB in P14, no, in P9, but not on the server. as the practice session come to an end, and he's not quite stopping the car in time for that corner there. As both Minty Fresh drivers now are not connected to the server. But anyway, whilst we wait the 5 minutes for the session to pick up into qualifying, we'll look at the standings again. We have Nassim Rula leading the team championship at the minute. Victor Bernat in second, and then the two Bijawi racing drivers in P3 and P4. Max Romer isn't racing this weekend, but Timo is, so as long as he can get some points in, he should jump his teammate in points. And if Kamishov can get a good point score, he might even be able to jump up into a P4, overtaking both his teammate of Ziglio and the Bijawi racing driver of Max Romer. .30 seconds to go until qualifying starts. Qualifying allowing all of the drivers to set as fast a lap time as they can to show it will set the it will set the grid for the race, which will be about 5 minutes after qualifying finishes for people who are new to racing. as we are now in qualifying. Drivers out to set the fastest time they can on an ever-developing track, so times at the end of the session should be faster than times set sort of in this section at the very beginning of the session, as the track will develop as the rubber is laid down and more grip from the track and things. So now it's interesting just to look at the cars and see what sponsors they have. Well, KB isn't in his qualifying session as of yet. He has still not reconnected after, I believe, his PC crashed. So interesting. Yes, as we look at our first qualifying runs being began by drivers such as Timo and Kamishov, all having crossed the line and now pushing to set the fastest lap time they can. Nassim is just out of pit lane. He hasn't crossed the line yet, at least to say a valid representative time, so maybe he has crossed it and he's the first driver on track. But I believe it is Timo at the moment, pushing to see how far up the grid he can put his car to start the 31 lap race, I believe. Yeah, just quickly double check that. 31 lap race, yes. As Timo is pushing all the way down to turn 14, which is a hard braking zone. Hard right-hander as well. Almost at hairpins. It's just over 90 degrees corner angle, at least. Taking not as much curb as you might expect, trying to get as close to the wall on that left hand. Ooh, turns in too much there. He stopped. He's sideways. He's on the racing line. He stopped, and that is another driver, Kamishov. He's had Kamishov hit him as well. Not quite returning to pit lane fast enough there from Timo. Could have done a bit better to get off of the racing line and maybe even get out of the way of drivers, but yeah, took his time a little bit there. Stopped on the racing line there, and it was just an unfortunate crash. And they still have 15 minutes to set a fast lap time. Yeah, apologies. As Denise Ferreira sets the first representative lap time of a 45.3. Pietro crosses the line to set. Doesn't set a lap time. Maybe his first lap time was invalid. As Daniel Sol goes faster than Ferreira there with a 44.5, which I believe are putting quite high up in in practice, as Kamishov gets a little bit trigger happy and goes spinning off track, as we now watch Timo, who is on an out lap, I believe. Could be a flying lap, but definitely isn't now after that quick track exit in turn 7. Dowski getting the car a little bit loose on corner exit there, but it's all good. Car's still going forwards and the car's still travelling very fast as he makes his way down to turns 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, which is a track we've already seen driver make a mistake at and go into that little bit of a tap in the rear end there, but the car's still going. And now 2021, all good. The penultimate and final corner, sort of two corners that are conjoined almost, sort of one flick of the steering. It sets a 42.9, fastest lap in this session by far. I thought a 43 wouldn't have done you well in practice. We had a 41, I think, or 41.9 from Kamishov was our fastest in practice. My mistake. But Uzunov now Ooh, little bit too much throttle on the exit there. Though that was very good. Maybe that's the cameraman's curse, as it just swaps to him and then he puts a little bit too much throttle on. But anyway. As we watch on board now with Timo. As he takes turn 14 there. Very nicely. We'll jump on board with drivers as they're coming into the final sector of sort of turn 14. Or like very early on, sort of going into the second sector. It's always the beginning of the sectors in which we pick up drivers. Now to the end of his lap now, a little bit of traffic there ahead of Timo. Alex Halm not quite pushing enough, that might annoy him a little bit. Ooh, getting very close these two. Timo to cross the lines, that's a 44.5, could have been faster, but it is what it is. Both of them going a little bit deep into the first corner. Renat Heroes coming through the final corner now, and as we watch the timings, ED go 5th with a 46. Jimmy Guth through the tunnel section. Ooh, rear end getting a little bit snappy there. So we come through the final corners of the lap. Stepped out a little bit there, it looked like. Having to put some opposite lock on. Let's do the final corner. We go, he crosses the line to set 44.82. Very good lap time, but there are two drivers we haven't seen a lap time from yet. And that is Nassim and Kamishov, two very fast drivers who, personally, I'm expecting them to go 1 and 2. And maybe a driver like Dejovski or Timo could slip in to P2 if one of them doesn't quite get the lap time they're after. As I check the track map to see where they are, Dmitry Kamishov is now coming around the final corners now to start a lap. And Nassim is at turn 14 right now. I do not know if he is on a lap or not. I'm going to guess not, as he hasn't actually set any lap time in this session yet. Kamishov, I cannot tell. But we'll jump on board with him as we get the fancy camera. Jumping through cameras angles to find it. But our fastest driver in practice, will he be our fastest driver in qualifying? We'll have to wait to find out, but Nassim has crossed the line and set a representative qualifying time of a 41.2, 1.6 seconds faster than our previous fastest driver. But can Kamishov push the car all the way through to set a faster time than a 41.2? Have to wait and find out as he makes his way down the long straight to turn 14 there. Very good. Car looking very stable, not too much going on with the car itself. It looks like it's very fast, doing as he wants it to do, not understeering or oversteering too much through the corners. And then down to turn 20. Looks good. A little bit hesitant on throttle coming out of there. Doesn't matter. Still going to be a very fast lap as he comes across the line to set a 42.2, putting him second. Daniel Soul coming through the the middle sector now. He is up on his time at the minute. He is in P5. You saw on the dashboard it said negative delta, which means that his delta is the predicted time that he could set is lower than the time which he has set. And the lower the time, the better for racing. For now, we'll just have to wait and see. There you saw. Crosses the line to jump Timo and go P4 with a 42.0. 40 something.0. I'll change the board quick there. 44.0. Okay, I thought it was a 42.0. I'll put him above Kamishov. Good at paying attention to the times, you know. Dan Johnson now for Tunisia, Force Tunisia Racing. Which Kamishov coming to the end of his lap now. Can he set a faster time than what he has so far? Possibly, maybe not. We'll have to see as he crosses the line. Sets a 42.0, 2/10 faster than his previous attempt, but still not quite enough to match or beat Nassim's 41.216. Dowski in third, trying to beat Kamishov's time, which is almost a second faster than him. To watch now through the bridge section underneath the grandstands and down to the final two corners of this lap here. Puts the car right into the corner, crosses the line and goes 2/10 faster, I believe. Goes faster though. I didn't see the lap time change, but now Timo Nathaniel coming to the end of his lap. 41, 42, 43. Sets a time good enough for fourth place with a 43.494. Any other drivers on a fast lap at a minute? Nassim possibly, as he's coming through the final sector now. Just him on his lonesome, setting purple sector after purple sector as he is 8/10 up on second place, and even more so on third. Coming through the final corner, he improves to a 41.007. Good pace shown from Nassim. This might be a little bit more difficult for Kamishov if his quali pace is that far off. Maybe his race pace could be a little bit closer. Just over 1 second there is the pace between the drivers, and 4/10 between second and third place, and 1.001 seconds between third and fourth there. If we just quickly jump to gaps now to see the gap between first and second and third, and sort of every gap to the leader, not in intervals and gap. In the race I might show intervals, which is the gap between you and the driver ahead, and then I'll show just normal gap. But as we're watching most of the lap with Nassim at the minute, everything seems to be going good. He might be up in his delta, we don't know, we can't quite see the dashboard. If we get an onboard shot we might see it. Ooh, a little bit wide there maybe. But everything seems fine. He's continuing with the lap into turn 20 and 21 there. Looking very good. Car keeping it out wide on the exit to maximise the amount of speed he can take, and he goes even faster, 2/10 faster than he'd already gone, setting a 40.867. The speed from this man that he keeps on finding and pulling out of nowhere. He's 4/10 up on his first lap time, 2/10 up on his second lap time, and this is the fastest lap time by 1.2 seconds to any driver on the track. Dmitry Kamishov not quite being able to match or beat Nassim yet. Nassim could probably step away from his computer now, and that'll be... Ooh, Pietro getting a little bit wide there through turn 18. Yeah, Nassim with a lap time like that, he can step away from his computer, and that is him for... That could be him for this evening, and he doesn't need to push too much more, because for a driver to find 1.2 seconds off of an already very fast time, it's gonna have to be an extraordinary lap. Victor Bernat coming through turns 1 and 2 there. All looks very good. Nothing quite to comment on. There's Dennis Federa goes 7th with a 44.5. The spread in pace is very interesting to watch, because you can see you've got drivers such as Nassim, Kamishov and Dahowski who are very fast at the sharp end of the grid, and they'll be fighting throughout the race for the win and for the podium. And you've got drivers who are a little bit closer. It's like Ven, Timo, and Daniel. But Timo can definitely find his way sort of up into the top battle or just below it, whilst not falling into these midfield battles, fighting for points and for like 5th and 6th place. Ooh, Dahowski goes faster than Kamishov there, setting a 41.2, 4/10 off of Nassim, and about 9/10 faster than Kamishov. There's now board with Jeremy Guth as he comes through the bridge section. That's the bridge section, not the other section. I've been getting that wrong for 2 sessions. I got it wrong in practice, and I got it for most qualifying. Only 1 minute left. Drivers starting a lap or on a lap now. Doing very well. Any driver that isn't already on a lap will not really be able to improve. As that is the end of qualifying now. Dahowski is 3rd for now, but Kamishov is on a lap. He did improve his lap time to be within a second of the fastest lap, and be only 6/10 off of the fastest lap. So you watch, Jeremy Guth taking a lot of curb there. Car bouncing up quite high. That might lose him a little bit of time. Also, the car was struggling a little bit to resettle there, but the minute he's in P7, well, Kamishov, he's made a little bit of a mistake, and that will be where he is. Timo as well is not continuing with the session, so that is our top 5 for now, is Nassim, Dahowski, Kamishov, Timo, and Bernat. But can these drivers that are on lap at the minute, looking at 6th, 7th, and 8th so far, can they work their way up into that top section, or work their way up from the position they're already in? Is Jeremy Goo through the final part of the lap now? To the line, putting the car as fast as he can through these corners. A 41, a 42, a 43. He puts himself 6th with a 43.6. Now watching Daniel Soul, who cannot finish the lap, and that will be the end of qualifying for him. As we now wait for the session to begin, the race session, 31 laps. We look to the standings, which puts Nassim Rula on pole position for this race, 3.8 tenths off of Alexander Dowski. In second place, so the front row is shared by Nassim and Alexander Dowski, Dmitry Kamishov, and Timo Nathaniel taking up the second row. The third row of the grid is Victor Burnett and Jeremy Guth. The fourth row is Daniel Sol and Ven Uzanov. And the fifth is Denise Ferreira and Rena Heroes. And we look a little bit further down the grid after P10, P11 and 12 are Pietro Lunghi and Dan Johnson. At the back of the grid we have Alex Haum, who didn't set a representative lap time and only had one lap, which presumably was his out lap. So 13 drivers. Battling it out for this race win. Presumably it will be one of the top 3, or quite easily Nassim, for how these street circuits are. Waiting one more minute, and in that minute we will jump to the standings for a third time this stream, just to have a look at how the standings are and think about how it could change with how qualifying is at the minute and how the race could affect it. as we're now able to get into the race session. Even we're just waiting a little bit for the server to pick up that the time has gone down, and it will teleport all the drivers to the grid, including the stream cars, but they can move back themselves. As we look on the front row, we have a Nassim P1, Daowski P2, Dmitry Kamishov P3, and P4 is Timo Nathaniel. P5 is Victor Bernat. As I jump back to the race, so you can see the cars flipping through quick. P5 is Victor Bernat. P6 is Jeremy Guth. P7 is Europroton of Daniel Sol. P8 is Venuzanov. P9 is Denise Ferreira. And P10 is Renner Heroes. As the lights are about to come on now. 4, 5 lights, 6 lights to the beginning of this race as we watch on board with Nassim. Ooh, a little bit of wheel spin there, and Daowski gets the better start, and Daowski is now taking the lead, and he has the inside line. So into turn 1, it's Daowski. Ooh, and Nassim's been pushed off now, and so it goes Daowski, Bernat, Kamishov, Nassim, Timo, and then Jeremy Guth. So Nassim has had quite a bad start to this race so far. He's in P4 at the minute. Kamishov is in P3, Victor Bernat P2, but Daowski has pulled away quite a bit in P1 there. So now the gap is 1.3 seconds to the lead already after only a handful of corners. Uzanov has made up quite a lot of places in P6, in P5 now, going down the inside of Timo, pushing Timo a little bit wide. Timo getting the inside line. Ooh, Sven's been hit, and him and Alex Halmer both gone round. Oh, and that's a head-on collision. Head-on collision with Zafani there, the Baguette Racing driver, who's just joined for the race, it seems, because I didn't see him in practice or qualifying. There's a head-on collision there. Lots of drivers will have to be returned to the pits of the street circuit. Not much death at turn 1 for the drivers, but lots of carnage going into later corners in the lap, as we haven't even finished lap 1 yet, and already so much has happened. Nassim Ruler is looking to make a move on Kamishov, as Kamishov is trying to catch down Victor Bernat to get second place. Daowski has pulled away 1.2 seconds from the rest of the pack. We'll have to see as Timo is a little bit far back from Nassim. Always Nassim gets a little bit of understeer there, and Nassim gets a little bit wide there and taps the wall. As Nassim disconnects. Oh, Nassim, something's happening with this Nassim. Maybe he had too much damage. I wasn't quite looking at anything there, but Nassim, after like having a bit of a scrap, getting presumably some aero or suspension damage, not wanting to deal with taking the time to repair the damage there. After a dominant qualifying session there, Nassim has retired from this race after just 1 lap of racing. Presumably his front wing was damaged quite a bit, or maybe there's a little bit of suspension damage for him. We won't be sure until I'll speak to him after the race. I believe he's probably off now and taking some time for himself, so I'll ask his teammate who was talking to him during all the incidents. And Daowski has now pulled quite a large gap to the front of the pack, to the rest of the pack. You've got Daowski first, 4.5 seconds ahead of Kamishov. Kamishov having a 3-second lead to Bernat, and then only half a second between them is Bernat and Timo Nathaniel. That is the battle that we're watching right now. And pardon me, excuse about. But yeah, right now we're watching the fight for P8. Just now we were watching. Ooh, as Pietro gets a little bit of understeer there and hits the wall on the exit of turn 18. Daowski setting 46 P6, I believe. I didn't quite see the lap time, but he set the fastest lap of the race so far. Dialski with a lot of pace. He could bring Istem Racing into the championship fight a little bit, as they are they're just under 60 points away from the lead at the moment. So with a first place finish for Istem Racing, they could definitely jump the order quite a bit. Nassim, he's safely leading the championship at the minute. With Nassim, if he isn't able to fight for a podium, then it isn't really worth his time. With how long he was pissing for damage, I believe it just wasn't worth his time. And the amount he was getting pushed around, it was just, for where he should be racing in this championship, he wouldn't have been there. And so it was like, he decided to retire from the session. But now Timo fighting for the 3 laps in, and Timo's already fighting very aggressively for the final spot on the podium for P3. I was saying position 3, but then stopped. P3, and you've got his teammate fighting the other Aqua Racing driver for P6. Both Bijawi Racing drivers pushing very hard to gain a position. They're both very close to the drivers ahead. But, it is what it is. 45.5 from Bernat there, and a 45.3 from Timo there. So Timo is closing down on the Aqua Racing driver. As we watch the laps from both Alex Halm and Jeremy Guth come through. Guth is a little bit off there, and now is about 2 seconds off the back. But the only real fights I can see that could be happening on the track at the minute is Pietro Lunghi and Timo Nathaniel. Every other driver is like 2 seconds off, maybe 3 seconds off. And so it's just sort of keeping it on the track, or keeping it within the bounds of the track for this race. So if you even try and escape the bounds of the track a little bit, there is a lovely concrete barrier to greet you, where you will inevitably break your car. And for the drivers running direct drive, which I'm not sure there are many or any in this league, for any drivers that are running direct drive, it will hurt quite a lot if they're running quite high settings. AZ Zafane has had a little bit of an issue at the final corner. No, he's just pitting very early. Lap 4. He's pitting for a... why would he be pitting now? Don't know. But anyway, to Timo Nathaniel versus Victor Bernat for P3. Timo's taken a little bit easy. He's not quite pushing the car to 100%, just so he doesn't burn the tyres too quickly. He's trying to just get to the end of the stint and maybe jump him with an undercut. For people new to racing, which I'm not sure if there are any watching this, but if you are new to racing and watching this, an undercut would be when you pit before the driver ahead, but do faster laps between the time in which you exit the pit lane and the driver ahead enters the pit lane, causing you to jump them in pit stops and end up ahead of them on track. And Alex Halm, presumably with a little bit of damage here, is entering pit lane. And an overcut would be when the driver ahead of you pits, and then you put very fast lap times in between when they pit and you pit, and you're able to be ahead of them after you pit. Timo's getting very close to Bernat there. He's about 4 to 5 tenths off. And just trying to fight as hard as he can for that P3. He's not really fighting. He's a lot of lock there to get through. As Alex Halm gets a little bit too much throttle on and leaves the race after his pit stop. Presumably not wanting to continue, or maybe there was a little issue there, because that was quite funny to see the inputs he was putting. Full left to full right lock on very quickly, and just burning up the tyres. Anyway, looking back to the action on track, Pietro Lunki is falling a little bit away from Heroes there, as Timo has also fallen a little bit away from Bernat. And Bernat and Timo have both fallen very far away from the front two, which I think, unless there is a major collision on track, this should be how the order will be similar to this for most of the races. 31 laps though, so a lot could happen, and we've still got pit stops to go. So, with 6 laps completed and 31 total laps, that means, if I've done my maths correctly, which I haven't, nope, I have 25 laps. I'm a little bit slow. It's been a long day. But anyway, 25 laps to go, usually. And the way I've adapted my commentating is, I'll say a little bit of thing, and then I stop allowing a second commentator to speak in that point of open air. But I haven't got a second person to talk to. It's just me on my lonesome. So I'm trying to pay attention to everything going on the track. Pietro Lungi is within a second of Heroes now. We haven't got DRS in this series. Even though the cars, I believe, do have the ability to activate DRS, we don't actually use it. And Timo Nathaniel is getting very close to Bernat there. He's only about 6/10 off. As the front two have both pitted now. Dmitry Kamishov and Dialski. Let's see if there's a difference in pit stop time which could cause an overtake here. Nope. Bernat and Nathaniel jumping them, but they still have a pit stop, or even more than the pit stop to go, because tyres seem to have worn away quite quickly, because last week we had quite late pit stops. They were pitting about lap 10 to maybe even lap 12, I believe. And then they were able to go most or all of the race sort of to the last 5 laps before they needed to make a pit stop. And now we're on lap 7, and lots of drivers starting to make their pit stops now. But Nat and Nathaniel, they can't have too much left in those tyres if the front two have already pit. As we'll watch the gap, it does seem to be dropping. At the moment it's sitting around 7, but it is definitely dropping dramatically. Actually, it's gone from 7 to 6.8. It's jumping from 7 to 6.8, so don't know. But we'll watch the gap between Dialski and Timo just to see how much the tyres are affecting their pace. Timo getting a little bit of a lock up there into turn 14, chasing down Bernat for what is now the race lead, but net on track after pit stops have finished it would still be P3 because of how close Dialski is. You'd need about a 20-second lead for you to be able to pit without getting overtaken. If I look at the gaps to the front runners, both Bernat and Timo have now pit, so it's just if or when other drivers come through, if they'll overtake. So watching Daniel Soul now, he's coming just to the final corner now, and Timo and Bernat are both going. Timo isn't going. Oh, Ven's off at the like under the grandstand section. As Kamishov now is in P2, the 2-second gap, while Timo is 20 seconds off, and Bernat and Timo are next to each other down this straight. Looking to the back, looking Jeremy Guth and looking away from the battle happening on track. Not quite, because we can see they are ahead of him. We'll use him as a little bit of an onboard to see how this battle develops, as now both Bijou Racing drivers are very close together, but ooh, Guth going a little bit deep there, pulling us a little bit further away from this amazing battle between the Bijoy and the Quail Racing cars. Timo not quite as close as he'd want to be now. They were getting very close just now, but now the gap is spread out a little bit, and we aren't seeing the battle we just had. Timo keeping it within. Ooh, as Victor Bennett has gone deep at turn 18 there, and losing 2 positions to both Bijoy Racing cars. So in the point standings, that is not something that Bernat is going to want to see, but Jeremy Guth is now entering pit lane to make his one needed pit stop, but possibly needing a second if the tyres cannot quite hold up. If we come off board quick and we look to Ven and Pietro Lunghi, who Ven has just made an overtake. Could have been very good, but we're too busy watching the fight between Bernat and Timo. Anyway, can Pietro catch him? No. Uzunov is now pulling away quite a bit already after the overtake has happened. Ooh, but tapping the wall on the exit there, that'll lose him a good chunk of time, as Guth is overtaken by Heroes. Down turn 7. Hard braking after a long straight to a right, left, right. Will Guth be able to make a little bit of a lunge on Heroes here? We will not see. As we look at Pietro Lunghi, who is 2 seconds off the driver ahead. Thank you very much, AutoCam. This is amazing, very helpful information I need to see. Amazing camera angle. Pietro Lunghi almost putting it in the wall there, as Jeremy Guth is fighting to try and overtake Heroes. As we now go back to Jeremy Guth, who is pushing as hard as possible on this fresh set of soft tyres to try and get past Heroes, who is on slightly older by about 1 or 2 laps. So the tyres are slightly older, and if we look to this little positions chart here, we can see that everyone, apart from Uzunov, Guth and Ferreira, have gained at least 1 position. Our biggest gainer being Heroes at the minute, with 4 places gained. Nassim Rula losing 13 after starting first and now being 14th after not finishing the race. He is retired from the session. So if we take one off of all of these, we can see that Guth, Ven and Ferreira have all lost at least 1 place. Guth having lost 2, Ven having lost 1. But as Nassim has retired, everyone is up 1. If we look to pit stops quickly, we can see everyone's made at least 1 pit stop now. Uzunov, Ferreira and Johnson have all made 2. Oh my god! Is that as Ferreira flying in there as Pietro Lunghi makes a mistake and sending him into the barriers. Big contact there. As we now look to the gaps to the leaders, Johnson is the only laps driver, but we're probably not far off seeing Dowski. Oh, we are quite far off. We're about the entire length of the straight off seeing Dowski in Pietro's wing mirrors. As we look to Jeremy Guth, who is fighting for P6 at the minute. Valuable points needed by the Bijoy Racing team to take them from second to... This could actually put Bijoy first with the points they're scoring at the minute. They are about a win's worth of points. So they're about 25 to... I'm going to do maths quick. Ooh, 118 minus 95. They are 23 points off of the championship lead at this very second. So, is Uzunov getting a little bit sideways out of that final corner there. So we'll lose him a lot of time. And possibly Obsession, not quite, because Freire isn't quite close enough to him. But Uzunov getting sideways out of the final corner there. Tyres being a little bit too hot. And Freire pitting, actually. To put a fresh set of tyres on. Maybe there's some damage. Maybe not quite sure. This would be the third pit stop they've made. But the closest battle at the minute on track would be Guth and Heroes. Sort of the only battle even within a second. But Bichel, need to be scoring 23 points or more. And at the minute with, 15 points and 15 and 6 points. That gets them 21 points, which isn't enough to push them into thingy. If I double check the actual point scoring system. Cool, that does not say how points are scored. I'm trying to find the point system because I'm not quite sure on the exact point system. Is this it? Does this have it? Nope. No. Anyway, Jeremy Guth trying to close down his gap between himself and Heroes. As well is Kamishov trying to close his gap on Daowski. Daowski picking up quite an impressive lead after getting a good start compared to I've forgotten his name now. Compared to Nassim, who had quite a poor start and was jumped by Daowski, and then I believe dive bombed a little bit by Kamishov, because then Nassim was forced off the track, having to not take turns 2 or 3 really. Gaps have opened up quite a bit now, so there's not much on-track action going on. So it's just sort of trying to fill time. Whilst we wait, we are 13 laps into this 31 lap race, so we're not quite halfway yet. Everyone has made their first mandatory pit stops. We could see some more pit stops if the soft tyres cannot quite survive 20 laps. 22 laps, which presumably they can't if the super softs are going in about 7 or 8. So we could see sort of a super soft, or maybe a super soft if the tyres wear, if you get to about lap sort of 17, 18, no, because that's 10. So let's say these tyres last 12 laps at this track. You're getting to sort of about 18, 19 before the tyres really start to go off. So you pit on about lap 19, 20-ish, and then you take a second set of softs all the way to the end of the race. That sounds about right. We'll have to see. So at the moment, everyone's swapped onto the soft tyres now, and it's just sort of waiting. Oh, Pietro Lunghi's pitting again for a fresh set of tyres very early. As me and Noah, the two commentators for this race. If you want to see the German commentary, some point tomorrow on Noah's channel. Oh, Pietro. Oh, he was serving a drive-through penalty, presumably for speeding in pit lane. But yes, so what was I going to say? Oh yeah, if you find it easier listening to German than English, there is a German commentary releasing like it would usually be the day after on the Noah's NB43 channel, which I believe is actually linked into the description of this stream. I'll quickly double check that for you though, by loading up stream and realizing that too many people have already commented and I haven't read. Yes, the description, there we are. In the description it does say German channel, and that'll be where it links you to Noah's channel, which doesn't stream live, but every single day, the day after each race, you'll get the stream to watch however you want. You don't have to watch the entire thing. You can jump straight to the race, and if the race gets a little bit dull and boring, like it did sort of 2 laps ago, but now gaps are closing up quite a bit. 2 drivers are within a second of the driver ahead. You have Kamishov and Dowski fighting for the lead, and then Guth and Heroes fighting for P6, which could be valuable points for the Bajeri Racing team to try and put themselves in first place in the Constructors' Championship. We're only round 6 in of how many races have we got this season? Round 6 of X number that will be said later. 6 of 14, so we are almost halfway through this season. And Bajeri Racing are trying to fight to take themselves to the lead of the championship, which could be a very valuable thing. They could 3-peat, 'cause at the moment, Timo and Max have won every Constructors so far. We don't have Max here today, but Guth could bring the valuable points needed for the Bajawi team to put a 3rd star on their rear wing. Because if we jump to an off-board quickly, looking ahead, and we look at the Bajawi car, you can see there are 2 stars on the rear wing. Last season there was 1 star on their rear wing, and the first season there wasn't a single star on the rear wing. So maybe they could get the valuable points they need to put a 3rd star on for the 3rd championship, which they've won. Dowski has entered the pit lane, making his 2nd pit stop, presumably for a 2nd set of soft tyres. Tyres have gone for a little bit earlier than I was expecting, but maybe he's trying to go for a longer stint and trying to get an undercut on Kamishov. We'll have to see, but Kamishov staying out as I now jump through to gaps quickly, and we look. Dowski is about 24 seconds off Kamishov, so we'll have to see how that affects the race. Dowski, the Extreme Racing car of Renner Heroes, spins on the exit of turn 20. Entering pit lane now to get a fresh set of tyres after those are presumably quite badly flat spotted, putting Jeremy Guth into 6th place. Timo is in 2nd at the minute, but Dowski has made a pit stop and so is on fresher tyres. So we'll see the gap, hopefully from Dowski to the lead, close up, and Dowski can try and fight for the definitely for a podium and maybe even a win today. He's been quite dominant throughout the race, so it'd just be nice to see a driver who has definitely picked up in pace. Sort of, so over the last couple of races, I've seen the Stone Racing car go from somewhere in the midfield to now fighting for podiums and wins. Like today, getting a very good start and taking himself all the way through the race so far and putting himself P4, but a pit stop down on the drivers ahead. Ustinov taking a lot of curb there, and you can see the angle of the car change quite dramatically as they jump over that curb at turns 11, I believe. As we look at Jeremy Guth in P6, who is 20 seconds off of Daniel Sol in P5, who is another 20 seconds off of Dowski. Dowski making another pit stop. Is there an issue with his car there? We look at pit stops quickly. He was having a very strong race, and then he pit on a lap 15 or lap 16. Now he's in pit lane again. So maybe there's an issue with that car. But Dmitry Kamishov has made 2 pit stops during this race. One I must have missed, or maybe one very early in the race. But Kamishov is now leading. Dowski's dropped to 4th place, but he's made 4 pit stops. So a race that could have been won for the Itstein Racing team now seems to be a little bit of a struggle. As I look, Dowski is 40 seconds off of Bernat in 3rd, as Bernat is looking at an overtake on Timo. He's getting very close there as we'll quickly watch from a drone camera behind the car. Bernat, as Timo pits, Timo's coming in. Is he going to follow? Bernat and Timo are both pitting. Hitting the 60 mile an hour, 80 kilometers an hour line. And then cruising down to their pit box. It said 60, so I thought it was 60 mile an hour. Maybe it's 60 kilometers an hour. Maybe this track in real life is 60 Ks, but... Ooh, Bernat having a lot of a short pit stop than Timo there, it seemed. Oh, no, wait, the time... No, it's fine. That's me being stupido. But taking the car now, presumably to the end. It's still a little bit earlier pit stop than I was expecting, so maybe we'll see drivers going on to the super soft sort of in the last sort of 3 to 5 laps of the race. But Dowski in the pit lane again, lap after lap. Is he making mistakes and hitting the wall, or is it something with the car? But now he's dropped down to P5 after leading the race almost all the way since about lap 1 to lap 15 until he made his first of about 3 pit stops in a row. I'll look into why that's happened, but for now there is nothing. I'll definitely find out why that's happened, because Dowski was having a very promising race until this 5th pit stop, and now he's dropped down to P5 with about 45 seconds to P3. As on lap 19 of 31, so we have about 12 laps to go. The order goes Kamishov, Timo Nathaniel, Victor Bernat, Jeremy Guth and Dowski in P5. Dowski was controlling this race, but then Kamishov was catching him a little bit, and now Dowski's made about 3 pit stops in a row, which was quite an interesting strategy to see. So I'll find out what's happened there and why Dowski struggled so much with multiple pit stops. But anyway, Victor Bernat is very close to Timo. He's not quite got the pace to catch and pass him, but he's definitely keeping within that 1 second window, which would be useful for DRS, but we are not running the drag reduction system in this league. And so it all has to be pure pace, and it can't be any assisted overtakes so far. Maybe in the future, but for now, there's no drag reduction system. But the front three now quite controlled, and even just first place. Dmitry Kamishov is 48 seconds ahead of Timo in P2. P2 could be a good fight between Timo and Victor Bernat. Bajawi Racing is scoring a more than plenty amount of points to push them very close towards or even ahead of over the limit racing, with Ven scoring about four points for the team there, it looks like, in P7, while Guth now in P5 scoring 10 points and Timo scoring 18 points in P2, giving them 28 points, which should still put them ahead. And still 23 points more, so is it? 28 points minus 4, yeah, 24. So it's going to be very close between Bajawi and Over the Limit, but I think that's going to be the battle we're going to have to pay attention to. That even though at least today we don't have Over the Limit fighting at the sharp end, and Pietro Lunghi's gone deep and is now back on track just ahead of Ven on turn 7. We now look to Renner Heroes, who is making their third pit stop. Let's go to pit stops to find out. I just skipped it and wasn't paying attention. Their 4th pit stop. Lots of drivers making lots of pit stops. P9 and 10 have both made 4 pit stops. P4 of Dahowski has made 5 pit stops. Most drivers having made 2. Ven and Daniel Soul having made 3. Guth having made 2, but is now on the super soft tyre for his second stint. Ooh, Pietro getting sideways after braking and going into turn 14 there. Who is that just turning up on the scene? Pietro, he's continuing? He's doing a 3-point turn. Okay, I was confused for a second there. Guess didn't want to burn up the rear tyres too much, as that was Dan Johnson passing Pietro for P10 there. Pietro, I'm going to guess, has front wing damage because he seems to be struggling a little bit with getting the car around. As Denis Ferreira in P8 overtaking Pietro Lunghi. But as we are on the 22nd lap of 31, I'm going to take a short little break and let the autocam show you all of the best racing on track. Looking at the gap 2 first. Only the top 4 haven't been lapped, and we're probably not far off the top 3. And there is the gaps. I'll be back in a second. That like Guth and P8 getting a little bit sideways there as Ven takes... Was that a stop? Was that a drive through? I'm not sure because it cut away as Ven was possibly stopping. That has not broken anything. That was my dice. I was just putting my feet up. Anyway, back to the racing now. Bernat and Timo Nathaniel very close to each other on track. Bernat, ooh, a little bit of a lock up there after getting a little bit close for comfort with the back of Timo Nathaniel's Bijawi car. Making sure he finds out exactly what is powering the Bijawi Honda car. And that would, in fact, be the same thing that's powering, or a similar thing to what's powering the dominant Red Bulls of today in real life F1. But is there a race this weekend? Because I've not been paying attention. I'm going to check that quickly whilst Dialski makes his billionth pit stop of the race. Oh, isn't... okay, it's next week. We got Saudi Arabia in real life. Dialski's made his pit stop 28-second time in pit lane. He is now 1 minute off of the driver ahead in P3, so he is almost being lapped actually. As if I look on track to where Bernat is VB, he is about he's over half a lap. Definitely over half a lap, but like, because a lap time's 140, 150, so just over half a lap actually. Thought it was 130s for some reason. Real life, I think it's 130s right now because of how fast the car is. No, because Lewis Hamilton was a 136 pole time. And I'm back again. I've disappeared for a sec. Yes, there we are. Victor Bernat is fighting very hard with Timo here to try and get the win. Not the win. Kamashov has the win in the bag at the minute. We have about 4 laps of this race to go. We could see a couple of pit stops for fresh rubber, but I don't believe we will. Fresh rubber going onto the super soft tyres. We can see a couple of drivers have done that. Ooh, Pietro getting a little bit deep. Going a little bit deep there, but we could see Bernat reacting to Timo, because if they both, I don't believe they both pit. I think if Timo pits now, Bernat will stay out, and then it will just be a defending game. So while it might be faster, oh, it's Timo's in, and Bernat is continuing on. I think with what 3-4 laps remaining, even though Timo could definitely close up this gap with the fresh tyres, I think with the nature of it being this being a street track, I don't think Timo will actually get past Bernat until he won't get past him. He's got four laps of the race remaining. He's not only got a closed 20 seconds, which he probably can on those super soft tyres if you're pushing 100% for the last 4 laps. But you can't close 20 seconds. Ooh, but Bernat struggling a little bit on those old soft tyres. The old prime tyres might make it a little bit difficult for him driving the car, and so I think Timo could close the gap, but it's getting past him once he's closed the gap. Definitely be something to see. Dan Johnson is now 1 lap behind the driver ahead of him. So, well, that's fun to see. Dmitry Kamishov, a driver who struggled a little bit in qualifying and the sort of the first sort of 5 to 10 laps of this race as well. The first 15 laps were very much dominated by Dialski. The first 10 laps were dominated by Dialski, but then I think once sort of lap 9, lap 10, lap 11 hit, that's when Kamishov sort of got into his groove, found pace, and was just very consistently faster than Dialski. Ooh, who's that getting past Kamishov? Waiting for it to not overlay on top of it. Not quite sure. I'm going to guess. Possibly Dialski. Possibly Guth. So I'm just looking at the shape of the second one. Yeah, Alexander Dialski. So our driver in P4 getting past our leader. But the leader is not quite there. Ooh, Timo has gotten the jump on Victor Bernat for P2. Bernat did feel like he needed to pit, but Kamishov could pit right now and would comfortably be in the lead still by a 30-second margin. So if he wanted to pit and go for fastest laps, I'm not quite sure who's holding that right now. I wouldn't be able to see it even if I opened up the server site because of how that shows things. I can bring it up and take a guess. Fastest lap of 42. That's not a 42.7 race lap. No, because Alexander Dialski also has a 42.7. 3 laps remaining. Yes. Yeah. You can tell the difference between setups, because this is quite a high downforce setup compared to Valencia, which was interestingly quite low downforce, because they were hitting about 300 k's at the end of the long straight there. But this track doesn't have that many long straights, and you're only hitting about 290, 293, as a couple of drivers getting right over the curbs there and losing their cars. Then, and I'm not sure who the other driver was, but cars getting very bouncy. A bit like last year's cars at the beginning of the season. Last year being 2022 Formula 1 season, where cars were struggling with porpoising as they were running too low and stalling out the air under the floor. Fancy stuff. Jeremy Guth in P8, scoring 4 points for the Bijawi Racing Team. In P3, Victor Bernat is trying to hunt down Timo. He's got 2 laps to do it. He's got this current lap that he's on. He's got lap 30 and he's got lap 31. He's got 3 laps to do it. Wherever Victor Bernat, there we are. Oh, that's Guth. Guth in P8 is hitting the walls a little bit. These are super softies on. They're getting a little bit old, I guess. And these are struggling with grip. They look slightly worn, but sometimes what I see is sort of a dark line down the middle of tyres. These might be modelled differently. Definitely look quite worn though, with a couple of flat spots where he might have spun and just sort of locked up the entire car or something of the sort, or just how the tyres wear. But Bernat is now less than a second behind Timo on lap newer tyres. And if we look at the track map quickly, you can see they're very close going into these final corners and these final moments of the race. As Bernat sets a personal best of a 44.07. As I'll wait to try and figure out who had the fastest lap. There we are. Very close here. Could see Bernat. Ooh, very close. Coming down to the longest straight on the circuit for now. And would still be after the changes. coming in next year. But ooh, looking around the outside of turn 4, that is definitely something we need to cut away from, isn't it? As we look at Victor Bernat now, Dmitry Kamishov crossing the line to start the final lap of the race. Victor Bernat has about a lap and a half to get past Timo for P2, or else he gets the bottom step of the podium. Two-tenths between them. He looks to go down the inside into this hard braking zone, but he decides against it, locks up, and then loses a little bit more time to Timo. But with his slightly fresher tyres, he could be able to make the overtake. As we're coming to the end of the lap now, Dmitry Kamishov has about half a lap until he's finished with this entire race, and Timo and Bernat have about an entire lap now. We're coming to the end of the 30th lap for these two drivers. 31st lap of the race. Ooh, Bernat losing the car a little bit as he's coming through that final corner. And he was about a tenth slower on that lap. So he's just looking to pass him. Not quite as close as he was on the previous lap, but just means he could send it a little bit harder into here. Can he pick up a slipstream? Timo's a little bit better onto the throttle. Didn't seem like any sort of squealing from the car. Bernat looks to the outside again. He didn't try and squeeze into any space on the inside that was there. He's squeezed out a little bit by Timo. He looks to the inside, but is clean, as we have Dmitry Kamishov crossing line to win the Singapore Grand Prix. But this fight for second is a lot more interesting as the drivers are getting very, very close to each other. Let's look down to turn 10. There is not really much overtaking opportunities. This is downside to street circuits. Drivers need to be a little bit more cautious than they do on pubs. Oh, as Victor Bernat taps the back of Timo, going into turn 13 there. He continues with his race. That will definitely be looked at by the stewards. But for now, it's Victor Bernat second, Timo Nathaniel third. A penalty could be coming, making Bernat finish third. So it's just Bernat having to push now to try and build a gap, because that could be a 5 or even 10-second penalty. He's definitely not going to build up 5 seconds in these last 6 corners. Last 4 corners now. Definitely not going to be able to build up a big enough gap to get rid of the effects of any penalties that could be put onto him. But through the final corner now, Victor Bernat takes second place on track. Timo Nathaniel takes third place on track, but there could definitely be a steward's inquiry and a penalty after that collision. But our winner from this race, Dmitry Kamishov for Baguette Racing, getting 25 points. So now, as we look to the old drivers' standings, so the pre-race driver standings, Nassim will not be gaining anything because he did not participate in this race. He participated, but he did not finish in a point scoring position. Cancel, bring up Discord. We could see if there are any driver interviews, but personally I just want to get the stream done now. I'm a little bit tired today, but I will see if the drivers want interviews. Looking for that, Bernat congratulating the winner of the race, who was Dmitry Kamishov. on his quite dominant win. I'll quickly try and speak to Dialski to see what happened there. I'll try and get this for you guys, just waiting. As we have Timo joining the voice call. Hello, Timo. Just get Discord unmuted on stream. There we are. Hello, Timo. How'd that race go for you?
A very good race. So yeah. That's funny. It's funny. So I don't know. Well, I'm finished now for P3, P2. So Victor has hit me in the last lap.
Yeah, that was a very close battle between you two there. At the end, just a little bit of a tap. Will we see a penalty or at least a steward's inquiry on it?
I don't know. So, in the first pit stop for me and him, I hit him on the pit entry line. Then he hit me 2 laps after this, and in the final lap, so then hit me in lap 1. So why is Nassim DNF?
Yeah, Nassim. I'm not quite sure why. I think it was just he was getting pushed around a little bit at the start, and then I think he picked up damage, and he just didn't really want to deal with having to fight from so far back.
Yeah. Okay. So and Diakowski. So it's a long pit stop. So why?
He didn't have long pit stops. They were. I wasn't paying attention to time, but yeah, he had about 5 or 6 pit stops during the race. So it was like he was having a very good start, and then it was just sort of lap 15 he pits, lap 16 pits, lap 17 he pits, and then he just fallen too far back to fight for the podium.
Yeah, his race was very good.
Yeah, it was a really strong race from him.
So I don't know. So it's a really good driver. So it's stay in next season. So it's going to Europroton, maybe. Yeah, in the next season. Europroton is a good team, and yeah, so.
Yeah.
Last week P3 after a penalty for Diakowski, so I come finish in P3. Now I finish in P3 and maybe I become P2. So I'm happy with another podium.
Yeah.
Today. So
it's good to see Bijou Racing still being on the podium.
Yeah, it's really good for everyone.
I think you're very close to getting P1 in the constructors, but I'm not sure if you quite got that today. Because you got P3, and there's about 20 points between you and P1.
Yes, for us it's very good. So that's Nassim have DNF. So in the championship, when Nassim win every race when they finish, so. Then we cannot defend the title in the Constructors Championship, but so maybe. I don't know.
It'd be good to see you pick up a 3rd star on that rear wing.
No. Next season, Noah has said the stars on the rear wing have out in the next season.
Okay.
So, but maybe he's come in the IndyCar.
Okay.
So then you can drive with the star on the
yeah.
So maybe. Yeah. Now we have next week ACF1 in 3 weeks. So.
Oh yeah, because we got. Have we got a couple of IndyCars in a row then?
Yeah, IndyCar. Nice. We are going to Indianapolis now. So
Indianapolis
with
for the street or the race circuit, which honestly I'm not liking at the minute. And then we've got the Indy 250, which hopefully I can do well in.
yeah, I hope you can win the race. So
Yeah.
it's really good. So and yeah, next season we have the ACF2. So I heard you are driving in the
Yeah,
series.
for I'm
So
racing
we
with Force Tunisia, I
so
believe.
yeah, you and me we switch the routes. So I commentate the races and you driving. So it's very
Yeah.
funny. So yeah, I don't know. So
And maybe if I can put a good enough performance in, I can get an ACF1 seat.
yeah, yes. So maybe I can talk to Nord. So we switch this to the live on the ACF1 channel, and
Yeah.
the video is coming Saturdays before ACF1. So I don't know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's good to chat with you. So thank you for joining me in the booth. That'll be it for today, streaming wise. Your
Yeah.
winner for the race today was Dmitry Kamishov of Baguette Racing. P2 for now is Victor Burnett, but there could be a penalty. And your P3 was Timo Nathaniel. Thank you all
Yeah.
very much for watching, and goodbye.